This is the Chery Omoda 5, and it deserves a second chance. When this car launched here back in March, we praised it for its value and its list of features, but there was something we were really disappointed with. Now, Chery says it's addressed the problem we had with the car, so we're giving it a second chance. Or, since Chery tried its luck in the Australian market a decade ago, a second chance. You can read the full review at carsguide.com.au, but this video will cover off all the main things you need to know, including whether Chery really has fixed the issue. Fortunately, the Omoda 5 makes a fantastic first impression, so let's start with that. It's here as a rival to cars like the Haval Jolyon and the Toyota Corolla Cross, but it's coming in hot with a much more premium feel than its price point suggests. You can get into the Omoda 5 from $29,900 before on-road costs, which is very good given it takes aim at the larger end of the small SUV segment. Even better when you find out that the top spec EX variant, which is this one here, costs just $3,000 more. It's more expensive than the base models of its rivals, but the Chery doesn't come with a base model features list. Plus, a Toyota Corolla Cross with all the goodies costs upwards of $40,000. Sounds like good value, right? But what do you actually get for your money? As standard, the Omoda 5 comes with LED headlights and daytime running lights, a set of 18-inch wheels on the outside, but the list really gets going inside. The Omoda 5 has an electrically adjustable driver's seat in synthetic leather trim, which in the EX grade makes both seats electrically adjustable and heated. Both variants also have a pair of 10.25-inch displays, one for multimedia and one for driving instruments, plus dual zone climate control, wireless phone charging, and wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. An extra few bonuses for the EX variant, there's a heated steering wheel, a power tailgate, and a sunroof. The Omoda 5 does come with another neat feature, and that's that it unlocks itself on approach and locks itself while you're walking away. However, once it's already locked, if you do press the lock button again, it beeps the horn quite loudly, which can be pretty embarrassing if you're in a packed car park. Another useful little feature, if it's your cup of tea, is the car's virtual assistant, which can be used with a "Hey Chery" trigger phase. What's up? Much like premium Euro car brands or your smartphone have been using for a while. If you want the full list of features and specs, you can read the full written review at carsguide.com.au. As well as its extensive list of features, the Omoda 5 sets itself apart from rivals through its design as well. Some of its elements might be a little bit divisive, but you certainly can't call it boring. A really big shiny grille, some sleek DRLs, red accents down there, and some quite big headlights are all quite prominent on the front of the car, and its standard 18-inch wheels actually get red accents here on the EX variant. But it's one of the things that I find a little bit awkward about the car. The gap between the wheels at both ends of the car and the car itself just seem a little bit too wide for me. It has some slight Iron Man vibes from the front, but up the back, I find it a little awkward, just like it's been lifted a little too high. I do like its taillights though, they look quite good, and the Chery badging in the middle is a nice little touch. But if you really want to be impressed by the Omoda 5, you've got to get inside. The Omoda 5 has an expensive looking list of features, but a lot of its interior is also a bit expensive looking. The dual 10.25-inch screens, for example, are shaped nicely into the low dash. There's a lot of other features in this car that look like they could have been taken out of a European premium rival. Some of the surfaces used in the interior look quite nice as well. For example, these synthetic leather seats are not something you'd usually get at this price point. There's some fake wood grain in the door as well, but like that, a lot of the surfaces are actually just hard, scratchy plastic. It feels spacious and, because of the sunroof, well lit, which gives this quite affordable car a luxury feeling. When it's parked, it's really impressive, but I'll get back to that later. In terms of the little practicalities, there are a fair few. There's two types of USB port up the front, a USB-A and a USB-C, although down here next to this storage bit, they're a little bit awkward to get to if you're in the front seat. Up above the storage in the front, there's this quite large phone charging pad, which can fit something like a note on it. Behind that, two cup holders, two in the rear as well. In terms of just general storage space, there is plenty. Aside from that down there, there's quite a deep bin here, and there's some proper door storage as well that you can fit a water bottle in. One of the things that bothers me just a little bit about the interior is the gloss black used here for the climate controls. While it lights up and you can usually see it pretty clearly, the wrong light reflecting off it makes it a bit hard to see, and because there's no buttons, you can't feel your way across it. Similarly, for a car in the small SUV class, there's plenty of room up the back here as well. I'm sitting in the second row behind my own seating position. I'm about 5'11", and I've got comfortable space for my knees, my head. The armrest here is quite well placed. There's also a USB-A port back here, plus some space in the door again for something like a drink bottle. Something I think could be a little bit better about the back seat is the shape of them. They're a little bit flat down here, and I don't feel like I have a lot of support under my legs. Another positive though is that the doors open quite wide and make it really easy to get in and out. Up the back, the Omoda 5 has a 360-litre boot, which is alright, but it doesn't quite match up to rivals like the Toyota Corolla Cross, which can have a boot up to 425 litres. It is a little bit bigger than something like, a Honda HR-V though that has about 304. There's a space saver spare tyre under here with some extra sound deadening foam and a 12-volt plug there. It does have a slightly high lip for lifting things up onto, I think, and the curved off shape of the boot means it's not exactly square in there, so anything that's big and bulky might be a bit of a challenge. Speaking of big and bulky, not this. Actually, I don't mind the engine in the Omoda 5. It's a 1.5 litre 4-cylinder petrol engine, turbocharged across both variants. They both make the same 108 kilowatts and 210 newton meters. That measurement is slightly different in Australia. In China, it's actually 115 and 230, but we measure things differently here. Both variants power the front wheels via a continuously variable transmission, or CVT. If you're someone who enjoys driving, 108 kilowatts and a CVT doesn't exactly sound like heaven, but it's actually one of the most cooperative parts of the car. I find it really smooth for driving around, and even though maybe at the lights sometimes it feels a little bit too eager, I don't have any issues with the drivetrain at all. It is, however, a little bit thirsty. Despite Chery's claim that the Omoda 5 should use 6.9 litres for every 100 Ks it covers, we actually ended up with a much higher figure both times we reviewed the car. The first time it was 12.3 litres per 100 Ks, but this time it's 10.4. That's better, but it's still not great. Alright, this is the part where we get to the thing I don't like about the Omoda 5. I mentioned earlier that this car is really awesome while it's parked, but one of the things it does once you get moving is really quite frustrating. The engine and the transmission are all fine. Like I said, they're really unobtrusive and smooth. But there's one major red flag with this car, and that especially shows up when you're on the highway. The last time we reviewed this car, we mentioned that its lane keeping assistance was really intrusive and felt like it was trying to yank the wheel out of your hand even when you weren't leaving your lane. Since then, Chery says it's fixed the problem, but I picked this car up last week and on my way home on the highway, I found the system intervening and trying to tell me I wasn't in my lane. Granted, it's not yanking the steering wheel out of my hand anymore, but it is still making tiny movements that feel like it's trying to interrupt. And this is all, again, while I'm well within my lane. Doing 80 or 100 Ks, I found it intervening every 5 or so seconds, and for a car that you're supposed to be able to live with every day, that's incredibly frustrating. Chery does allow you to turn the system off through its menus, but every time you turn the car back on, it's on again, meaning you've got to go back and do it each time. It's frustrating, and it means if the system is a deal breaker for you, it's probably going to become quite annoying living with the car. And that's really unfortunate for Chery, because without that system and the way it behaves, I'd happily recommend this car to anyone that didn't really mind about driving dynamics. And that's not to say the driving dynamics in this car are bad. It can feel a little bit floaty at times, like the suspension needs a little bit more of a tune for Australian roads, and the steering doesn't have a whole lot of feel to it. It does have a little bit of a dead spot in the centre as well. But I don't think for most people those are deal breakers. There are a couple of other small little things that I think would just take some getting used to if you were used to other cars. For example, the brake pedal needs a little bit more of a hard press than you might expect if you're used to other new cars. Not dangerously, just something you need to adjust yourself to. The other thing is that the mirror in this car, this rear view mirror right here, has a really weird perspective where the rear seats are quite visible to me, but the rear window looks like it's about 3 car lengths back. It's kind of annoying if you actually really need to use it while you're on the highway, especially at night with headlights. Using the rear mirror for parking isn't really necessary though, especially when the car itself has quite a good system with the cameras and the computer. The computer does let it down sometimes though. Just little things like when you're in traffic and the car in front starts moving, it tells you that the car has drived on. There really are only a small number of things that let this car down, and it's a shame that it probably wouldn't even take that much work to fix it. This is frustrating because, on paper, the Omoda 5 is pretty safe. The full list of safety details is at the written review at carsguide.com.au, but here's the headline stuff. The European equivalent to our ANCAP, Euro NCAP, awarded the Omoda 5 the maximum 5-star rating. It's got AEB, blind spot warning and rear cross traffic alert, and even a little view of the car when you turn the indicator on to show you the surroundings. There's some good stuff in there, but it's just that active lane keep that bothers me. In the second row, there are 3 top tether anchor points and 2 ISOFIX mounts for car seats. It's also got 7 airbags and they cover heads for both rows and sides for the front. And for the ownership benefits of the Omoda 5, it's 3 lucky 7s. Chery gives you a 7-year unlimited kilometre warranty, 7 years of cap price servicing, and even 7 years of roadside assist. That's all pretty good. And it's things like that that are going to make people want to consider the Omoda 5. It's low price, its listed features, and those ownership benefits. But anyone who takes this car for a proper test drive might be a little bit disappointed by the way it behaves on the road. And that's a shame because I really want to like the Omoda 5. It seems like Chery is genuinely trying to make it a better car. But it's competing with the Toyotas and the Hyundais of the world. And the way it stands at the moment, I'd probably recommend a car with fewer features that gets the basics right over this. And that's a shame because with a couple of small tweaks, this could be a great car and excellent value, but it's just not quite there yet. If you want more details and the full list of specs, go to the full review at carsguide.com.au.